cause of conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Since Ukraine broke apart from the Soviet Union, both Russia and the West have been competing with one another to have a stronger influence in the country. Their goal is to maintain a power balance in the region that tilts in their favor. The buffer zone that Ukraine provides between Russia and the West is extremely essential. Russia has significant strategic advantages thanks to the one-of-a-kind terrain of the region where the Black Sea first formed. There are various factors that have contributed to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Nevertheless, many believe that NATO is the primary cause. It all began in the year 1999. In the beginning, there were just 12 members, but now there are a total of 30 members. In addition, Ukraine is interested in joining NATO. But Russia does not like it. Because the North Atlantic Treaty Organization has a principle that states if a country becomes involved in a conflict with any other countries, then every country that is a member of NATO must fight alongside that country. It indicates that everyone will respond to it at the same time. Why did Russia invade Ukraine? Although there had already been difficulties involving Russia and Ukraine, an ex-Soviet republic, for a considerable amount of time, the situation did not start to spiral out of control until the beginning of 2021. In January of the previous year, the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, pleaded with the Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden, to allow Ukraine to join NATO. This infuriated Russia, and in response, they began conducting training exercises in the spring of the previous year near their border with Ukraine, and they stepped up their presence in the fall. By December, the United States had begun to ratchet up the publicity surrounding the impending deployment of Russian forces, and President Biden had warned that Russia would face severe punishment if it attacked Ukraine. Russia has requested that the West provide an assurance that NATO would not engage in any military activity in Eastern Europe or Ukraine. This guarantee must be legally binding. Vladimir Putin asserts that Ukraine is a Western puppet state and that it was never a legitimate state, to begin with. It is not the first time that tensions between Russia and Ukraine have reached a breaking point. In fact, this is not even the most recent instance. Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2014, when separatists backed by President Putin captured vast swaths of eastern Ukraine, Russia has been engaged in combat with the Ukrainian army. At the time, Russia had included Crimea in its territory. Impact of Russia-Ukraine war on India. Despite the fact that India imports more than 80% of the oil it consumes, the proportion of oil imports to the country's total imports is just about 25%. This is concerning since the conflict between Russia and Ukraine may result in an increase in oil prices, which will, in turn, increase the risk of India's already rising inflation. The widening of the current account deficit will also be affected by the surge in the price of oil. There is a disparity between the monetary worth of the commodities and services that are brought in and taken out of the country. Conclusion: while there were certainly alternate paths that could have been taken, the causes of the conflict ran considerably deeper, and the participants were subject to many more external and internal constraints than is suggested by the blame-oriented literature. As a result, plans to turn Ukraine into a neutral state or hoping that Vladimir Putin will eventually leave office are not viable options for ending the conflict.